Give us the elevator pitch, Lynessa.
What's it about? It's about a girl who falls in love with a hitman, but simultaneously falls in love with the guy who wants to take the hitman down.
Oh, wow. You're watching Dropping Gems podcast with sitting here today with Lynessa Layne, and she has written a number of books in a series. Tell us the name of your series, Lynessa.
It is called Don't Close Your Eyes, and subsequent novels are with the label DCYE for short. Yeah, so
Do you have one nearby? I see you looking over there. Don't close your eyes. Love it. You and I are both in the Twig group, the Tuscaloosa Writers and Illustrators Guild. And we've just been watching you in the guild, and your marketing, your in-person marketing is like fireworks. We're just so proud of you all over the place.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. We see you're doing like a whole book tour. You started in 2021 and you've got like 2022 filled out ready.
Yes, and then some already in 2023 as well. It's
oh wow.
Yeah, it's crazy how fast everything is filling up.
Okay. And now I noticed one of the more recent tours you did was in a prison. It was like the one that was done through Shawshank Redemption.
Yes.
The movie.
That was really cool. I love that movie. I had actually never seen that movie until the weekend before we went to the Ohio State Reformatory. And going there, and I remember it was just like, I just want to touch the building. Like, I just want to touch the stone. I want to, like, this is so neat. It was a really cool experience. It was chilly, very cold.
It was cold in there. Do you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think it's like that in jail in general. It's usually when people are like,
girl, yes. And it was very humbling. I will say that much. It made me, I found myself praying for people who had already been in there at one time, but also anybody who's in prison right now, and just thanking God that I am, blessed to not have ever gone to prison or anything, because up there, especially, man, the winters are just brutal, and there was no heat except for in, the warden's quarters and just the main areas where the guards and things would be. But it was very cold. At one point, we went on a tour after the show was over, and my knees were like knocking because I was so cold. It was so cold. Yeah.
You can only imagine if people were there 24 hours round the clock. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. But what an experience. So when do you know, like, when did they clear that prison out?
I think it was cleared out in the early 90s, like right before they filmed Shawshank. I believe Shawshank was filmed in 92 or 93. And I think they had just shut down the prison maybe 1991-ish. So it was very recent as far as prisons go, in my opinion. But you could just feel like, at first I thought, I'm going to buy like a striped dress and kind of play on the prison thing and just be kind of cutesy about it. But girl, when it started cruising up to that time, and I'm walking up to that building and I'm thinking, thank God, like I didn't, because I would feel almost disrespectful for the suffering that had gone on there.
I haven't seen the movie. Maybe I need to watch that movie then.
The movie is really good. It's probably one of the top 5 best movies I've ever seen. I was blown away. Yeah. It's good.
And so you guys were in your own cell with like each author individually in their own cell?
So at first, that's the impression that we were given, was that we would do that. And my husband loves those ghost hunting shows. So he's like, here's where you're going. And I'm like, I don't want to go now. It's scary. But I was looking at those cells and I'm like, I can't be in them. I can't do that. Fortunately, we were actually up in like this guard, it's a huge, it looks like a ballroom. It's got a checkered floor and everything. The ceilings are really high, and it's like upstairs on the 2nd floor. It's beautiful. And that's what's so ironic about the Ohio State Reformatory. You look like you're walking into a castle. It was gorgeous. But then you have all of these glass walls, and that's where we were. We were in the guards thing, quarters, or whatever you want to call it. and we had glass walls behind us where you could see all of the cell blocks on either side.
Is this like an annual thing they do?
I don't Now, I did ask about that. I think they've gone there a couple of times before, but I don't think it's annual. I think it's more like every other year or something.
Okay.
I'm definitely interested in going back again. The drive was killer, but the rest of it was really, it was a neat experience.
And did you want to share? Did you make a lot of sales? Like, was it worth it?
That one, I'm not even going to pretend that I don't lose money on going to these in-person events, only
Okay.
because the drive time is brutal and the gas and all of that and we bring our children with us. I have 5 kids, and so I want them to see all these different places.
Okay.
And
you're
so
homeschooling.
yes, and I'm homeschooling, so it's kind of a cool way to give them a view of other places, cultures, just the environment change and all of that. So we brought 2 cars this time.
Okay.
That was brutal. And because all of my writing, my gear, this was a great lesson to learn on what I need and what I don't need. I think I sold 4 of my sets. Like I have 4 books right now.
Okay.
So I sold 4 sets of 4 on that. And then I sold, I think, like 10 book ones. But that was such a big show that this one, I think there were 110 authors.
Oh,
so
wow.
You got to think, you're kind of in a saturated area. And if you can stand out and get them to buy your book or whatever, that's great. But what I have done that has made me stand out, and I noticed other people were like, ooh, I hand out free copies of chapter 1 of my series.
Okay.
Yeah. And so
what form do you use to hand it out in?
you mean like, how did I print it out or whatever?
Yeah, you hand it out like it's printed? Is it?
I printed it out basically exactly how it looks in the book, and I used the booklet format. And I just took what I used for my paperback manuscript, my PDF, and I just chose the pages that I wanted to print, and I hit booklet. And so I basically printed out the front cover, the back cover with the synopsis. So you had all the cover art. I put all of my information on there. And then I figure, chapter 1 of my series is like one of those things where you're either going to know right away, I hate this, or I really want to read this. And so to me, that's, and I used to be the demo girl, the sample girl at the grocery store whenever I was a teenager and young adult. So that has really come into play with that marketing strategy. And so I figure, even if there were people that came to these shows, and it was really neat to see the people who rolled up in there that weren't the authors, the customers, because some of them, man, they really come prepared. They had like roll around carts. They were filling it up. They had boards that they created just for the authors all over the place to sign for them.
Okay.
It was a really neat thing to look at. I got a lot of ideas of things that I want to do differently next time. I really had fun though. I had fun.
I love that marketing strategy with the booklet. Do you have one of those nearby?
So here's just the little booklet that I created.
Okay.
And it's only chapter 1. I put my copyright information, like I printed my copyright page. You probably can't even see it because it's so faint, but I even have my watermark of my brand on every page. That way it's not so easy to just lay down and, you're not going to copy. Even then, it's just chapter 1. Like you have like all my social sites, all of my contact information, anywhere that you could find me. And what else I like to do is typically what I'll do is I'll put bookmarks and any little like promo material, like business cards or anything. I'll stick them in here and I'll stuff them basically. Okay. And then that way I hand them out and people automatically have like 3 things of mine in their hand. It worked very well. Whenever I did the local craft show here where I live, I sold out of everything. I had no inventory left at all. And it was because I'd handed out those pamphlets, and all I would be, people would pass by and be like, hey, does anybody like to read? And they, yeah, I like to read, or no, I don't like to read. But I would hand them the chapter 1 and be like, well, would you like a copy of chapter 1 just to play with later on whenever you're bored or something? And they're like, sure.
Yeah.
And I had people who did that on Saturday, and then they came back on Sunday specifically to buy the book.
Good.
I also had people apparently walking right around my tent reading and then turning right back around and coming back. So I was like,
so that's an excellent strategy.
Yeah. I sold a lot of books that way. And then, like I said, I have a different voice. A lot of people tell me that in my writing. Mm-hmm. And so I really am one of those authors that you tend to either love or hate. Okay. And so I figure, like I said, chapter 1 is really a good idea so that you're not buying something you're just going to be like, oh, that was a waste. Like,
well, I know people do that in ebook form. They'll try to get people to sign up with their newsletter, and then sometimes the goodie that they'll give them is chapter 1, or if they want to give them a really big goodie, they'll give them the prequel to the story. But I've never seen it done in paperback form, like in a booklet, and I think that's like a wonderful idea, that other authors can grasp onto.
Yeah, they were really looking whenever I was like, here, have a copy of chapter 1. They're like, wait, what? Like, oh, here we go.
And that sounds like that would work really good if you're at like a 2-day or more event. Like day mm-hmm. 1, but like you said, they were voracious for your books. Like they read it standing around the tent and were like, okay, I'm ready right now. Some of them.
Yeah.
I know you're an independent publisher. That kind of leads us into that. You're able to make those things on your own because you are an independent publisher. And
yes.
Now, did you do that through KDP?
No, I strictly go through Ingram because Ingram is where every major retailer and bookstore and everything, that's who they use to purchase books from. And so if your stuff is in Ingram, then you are wide.
That's a gem especially for other authors.
And I think at craft shows, I like that they're not so saturated as a book show. So I'm going to book shows with the idea not so much to sell out or anything. If I do, wonderful. If I sell 1 copy, wonderful. I'm going into it more for the people and the dialogue that I get to open up. And I also learn a lot about readers themselves whenever I am meeting and greeting with them, because just gauging their personalities and the things that they want versus, we can take a bazillion classes out there for marketing or catching, your next 1,000 readers or this or that, whatever getchy thing. But at the end of the day, I am just looking at it like if I'm just out there for just the one, because that one matters to me. And I believe I say it in my very first book, I dedicated, I say, for you, dear reader, typing made me a writer, publishing made me an author, and you make every word worth sharing. Because if just one other person loves it like I do, then it was worth getting it off my laptop and out there in the world. But meeting these people and knowing, sometimes they'll buy your book just because they love you. When they meet you or your energy, there's something about meeting an author and knowing the personality behind the book mm-hmm. that amplifies it, like meeting you. And, my daughter, just like meeting you and knowing now this person I'm reading about, here she is, like, how wonderful. And then to go from like the story that you have told and it be so challenging or personal, but to share that and now you're connecting. There's something wonderful about that.
That's true. You publish strictly through Ingram Spark, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
You publish strictly through them so that you can go wide.
Right, because Amazon, so I believe it was Carolyn Breckenridge that told me at the Tuscaloosa Writers and Illustrators Guild early on, that if I wanted to self-publish, that I better not do it through Amazon alone, because booksellers will not touch it if it's from Amazon, because Amazon is a bookseller and Amazon is their own entity. And so you can publish through Ingram and it be available to purchase on Amazon, but you can't publish through Amazon and it be available anywhere else except Amazon. So that's why, I mean, you can use a different ISBN and create another paperback copy with a different ISBN for Amazon KDP. That way you've got a product through Amazon, because then you can actually take out ads for Amazon for a paperback as well. But you can't go vice versa, you know. So that's what I'm doing. I'm working on the paperback for Kindle as well, and just reformatting for their version. That way my book is available on their, it's available, but they won't let me promote it the way that it is through Ingram.
Okay. Yeah. I've heard that some authors do that. They'll publish through Ingram for paperback, and they'll publish through Amazon for paperback. Yeah. Well, through Kindle, like you said.
And I also published through Barnes and Noble the same way. Barnes and Noble, I finished that last, like, I think right before I went to Ohio. And then it's just been like slammed to the point that I hadn't had a chance to even get back to the KDP thing, but I've got it in the works. So I'm published on Barnes and Noble Press with my paperback with a different ISBN. And then you can also do kind of some neat things. It gives you, if you're an independent like me, you have the freedom to play with it. So I can create a little bit of a different, like a bonus version or something that's got a little something different in the Kindle or the, you know, the Amazon version versus the Ingram version or something. But I haven't really played with that.
Okay. Oh, you're on it though. What's your next tour coming up?
The next place I will be is at the Villages near Orlando, Florida on January 30th. And then right after that, on February 19th, I go to Kansas City, Missouri, for Flirty in Kansas City. Yeah. So the one in the Villages is smaller, but it's kind of like an excuse to go down to Orlando. I love Florida. But then Kansas City, I'm really excited because one of my friends that I graduated high school with, she's actually living near there, and she's going to come and see me, and it'll be the first time we've connected in almost 20 years. So
many perks to
yeah.
A traveling author like you. Now, would you say this is like a long-term relationship you're building? Like you said, it's not always about the ROI, the immediate ROI when you do these in-person events, but you're passing out your booklet. People are buying your books. It may not always cover all your expenses. But when you did it locally, I'm assuming it did, because you were local, you sold out.
The local thing, my ROI was basically tenfold the fee that I paid to be a part of it. It was great. And I think I'm going to look more into doing craft shows. I would be willing to travel for those as well, because you just meet a different group of people who, you know, they're just there shopping for whatever they see. And I kind of like the challenge of meeting people outside of, you know, your typical reader dynamic. You expect readers at a book show, but when you're out just it's kind of like I said, like the sample thing, you just don't know what someone's going to like or not. And I think I like the challenge of getting to know all of the people that I can reach versus just one type. A lot of them, it'll open up dialogue, and they'll sit there. I mean, it's almost like therapy. You know, you think about like how bartenders end up becoming like the therapists on accident, but there are so many people that will just sit there at your table and they'll just start talking to you and, you know, telling you things, and you just become like an ear for their heart for a little bit. And there's something wonderful in that too.
Now, does some of this result from them talking about the characters in your book or the genre that you write?
Actually, at the craft show, no. And I found that fascinating. But on the book stuff, I have had people reach out to me. And when I published originally in 2014 and I wrote it in a different genre, I didn't expect much readership. I was just doing it for a hobby, and I threw it online on the suggestion of a neighbor. It was a big mess. I didn't know what I was doing. I am a copy editor now, but I was not then, and I had forgotten all my English rules and everything else, and it was a disaster to me. But I have a reader who is a diehard fan who has easily read my series 15 times. And the original version is 10 books long. This version will be 13 books because those books were way too long for paperback, and I have to pace that out. But she gleaned so much from what I wrote that it helped her escape an abusive marriage. It helped her get her life on track. She gained the confidence to go out and get her own career. Like, I can't tell you, there are no words to say that you what's in your head somehow
how it
can
can
reach
affect
someone.
Wow.
Yes, and change a whole person's life. And it's like, well, I was just, kind of playing Barbies in my mind, but it's awesome.
Now, you mentioned your husband. He's a veteran, and I know that he helps you a lot.
Yeah, he's right here if you
okay.
if you want to make him part, because he's my marketing guru.
Hello.
Hi, AJ.
I brought Santa.
Welcome. We see Lynessa all the time in the Twig group. She's going all over the US on this world tour, and we know you're right there by her side. And recently we were all together at the Tuscaloosa Public Library as authors, and you were there. And I know you're instrumental in having a team like that. I know that's got to be so helpful, Lynessa. So tell us about that. You have a background in marketing, right, AJ?
I actually have a degree from the University of Texas Pan American. It's they changed their name. It's now called University of Texas Rio Grande Valley.
Okay.
And it's in communication journalism with emphasis in public relations and advertising.
Wow. I love that stuff. I really do. And my favorite class was always marketing. And now you get to actually act it out. Now that you're, put it to action, now that your wife is out here selling books.
Yeah, it's a little different than the PR I've done in the past. I worked for a top 10 private firm in the country.
Oh, wow. Okay,
in DC, and worked on lobby projects on Capitol Hill, and then also worked for a pro baseball team. So that was interesting. And I was editor-in-chief of the university magazine.
You guys are so humble. You never told me any of this. Wow.
She's the superstar. I'm just the backing singers.
Now, you're so blessed to have this.
I am.
Marketing side by side with you.
Yes, very much so. That elevator pitch, that's another thing that I've learned so much about being in these public shows versus online. You need your elevator pitch. It took me a long time to come up with an elevator pitch. I didn't know how to do that, but these shows have made me figure that out really fast. When someone's like, what's it about?
Yeah, and you basically have 10 to 15 seconds to hold someone's attention and keep it. And if you can't get across in 10 to 15 seconds, excitement, engagement with that reader that gets them to ask you more questions. Once they're asking more questions, you've got their interest. And then, you hand them a book to take a look at and just read the first few lines, see what you think. Yeah. But, if you don't have a good pitch, then they're going to be like, oh, okay, then move on to the next table.
Give us the elevator pitch, Lynessa.
What's it about? It's about a girl who falls in love with a hitman, but simultaneously falls in love with the guy who wants to take the hitman down.
Oh, wow.
And she doesn't know the guy is a hitman. So, yeah, she's got quite a conundrum. And that's why I've got the two guys at the beginning. And she's got, she's giving her heart away to two different men. She's torn in half. So, yeah.
That's good. And where can people reach you, Lynessa? Tell us right now, if people want to read Don't Close Your Eyes, the series, where can they get that series and where can they reach you for more?
If you're an e-reader, you can get my series on Kindle Unlimited for free on KU or for $4.99 a piece, just through basic Kindle. And then if you are a fan of paperback, you can find me at all retailers nationwide or internationally. I'm available online to order.
Over 40,000 retailers worldwide.
Yeah, it's very
Walmart,
searchable.
Target, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Thrift Books.
Or you can go to my website, LynessaLayne.com. We've got a ton of links there that you can follow. You can usually find a bookstore. We put as many indie bookstores on my website as possible. That way, if there's one in your area, you can support another small business and an independent bookstore over the major chains.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I'm on Facebook,
Twitter,
Instagram.
Lynessa
Lynessa
Layne
Layne.
on all the social media. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, AJ and Lynessa Layne.